Welcome back to episode 12 of Creator Conversations, where I have the pleasure of interviewing and really just having a conversation with some of the most influential content creators here in this personal finance and credit card niche we find ourselves in. In our last episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with Brian Jung about how he's gone about mastering the credit card game, building an extremely successful YouTube channel, and developing his businesses that grows him over 7 figures a year. And in today's episode, I get to talk to a good friend of mine in this creator space, that being Matt Welter. Not only do we talk about why he's somebody that's more on that team travel side of the credit card game, but we also talk about his hotel credit card strategy going forward, since that is something that me and him are both kind of doing at the same time right now, what credit cards he's currently using the most, on top of also being able to learn just more about his YouTube experience overall so far. If you do enjoy this series, I'd really appreciate it if you left an early like on this video and just checked if you're subscribed to the channel, because these interviews do not only take a lot of time to produce, but also a lot of money in some cases. So if you could just do me that solid, that'd mean a ton. But with all of that being said, I hope y'all enjoy this one as much as I did. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome in Matt Welter to our conversation today. Matt, how's it going?
Doing really good. Really excited to be here in person down in Austin, Texas, and really excited to get into this episode and talk about all things credit cards. So
yeah, I know, another in-person episode. They're getting spoiled lately, but I'm happy to have you here, and luckily got you in a good room, could film in here, so it'll be a good time.
Absolutely.
Have some fun with it. The first place that I want to start with you in particular, because I know that you are a big fan of the hotel side of the travel part of the credit card game, so even more niche than just the travel. But I was wondering if you could explain a little bit to us about your hotel credit card strategy right now and how that's evolved, at your age, being somebody that's just now kind of getting into it, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off as a Hilton loyalist, early on in my credit card journey. Was kind of, going for Hilton credit cards and, seeing the high welcome bonuses and also some downgrade opportunities, things like that. Was doing that train for a while, but then recently kind of made this, discovery when I was looking into a future travel redemption I was planning on doing. So going to Colombia and Panama in February, kind of doing some research into the area and what sorts of hotel availability there was. And that's when I kind of realized that, Marriott had a great footprint there. And that's where I kind of figured out that Marriott typically does have the best global footprint overall. Shout out to Stan the Credit Frog. I've been watching a lot of his videos on the topic, but so I figured it just made sense a lot for my hotel credit card strategy to build in some Marriott credit cards and, be exposed to that ecosystem. But I think overall just having exposure to different hotel ecosystems gives you the flexibility that really helps a lot. So
yeah, I think one thing that's interesting also to caveat all of this too, just to let people know, is like me and you, out of the entire credit card community, or a big part of it, at least our kind of subset, we are the same age, so we kind of have a lot of the same experiences. Right. Going into the credit card game. So I guess, and I've been a little bit more delayed on the hotel side than you have with the credit cards. So I guess what made you jump into even becoming a Hilton loyalist as early on as you did?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, early on in my credit card journey, I was trying to prioritize either no annual fee credit cards or at least opportunities where I could downgrade to a no annual fee credit card just for, my credit history purposes and things like that. So Hilton had a couple different opportunities where I was able to jump on a high sign-up bonus, but then also, have an opportunity to either have a no annual fee credit card or downgrade to that. Mm-hmm. Also just had some future travel plans, and I knew that, was going to be proposing at some point in the future. So honeymoon and things like that, it made sense to try to accumulate some Hilton points and be able to redeem those for those purposes. But
gotcha.
Yeah.
So as I don't know if this relates to you, but for me, as a kid, I stayed at Hyatt properties. I stayed at all their resorts and stuff, which is why I'm a Hyatt loyalist, you could say, even though I'm now getting into the Marriott side as well, which I can touch on. But I guess, do you have any experiences early on that made you go towards the Hilton route, or was it just because of the convenience of the locations and stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, honestly, it was pretty spread out when I would travel with my family and stuff growing up on where we would stay and, whether we were in an Airbnb or a hotel or something like that. But I think just definitely kind of saw the value of Hilton cards, saw this high sign-up bonus offers, was treated pretty well with even just having Hilton Gold status and some of the benefits I got from that. And overall had good experiences. I was typically able to redeem my points for a little bit higher than what people typically average the points at. So that was definitely a big plus for Hilton also. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome. I think obviously Hilton credit cards are they're really the top of the credit card game, or the hotel credit card game, because they just are so valuable, especially with the Hilton Aspire card. You don't have that card yet, right?
I don't have it yet, but
I assume you're planning on it at some point. But
yeah, it's interesting because I definitely want to pick up either the Hilton Aspire or Bonvoy Brilliant. For pretty much forever, I always thought that the Aspire would 100% be the card I was going to get. But just especially recently, like being more interested in the Marriott ecosystem and some of the opportunities there has really opened my eyes, I guess, to the potential for the Bonvoy Brilliant. I would say I still lean towards the Hilton Aspire just because there's not really that many other credit cards out there, if any at all, that are going to give you the opportunities to get as much value as you can for, what the fee is. So.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, I did kind of mess up in saying that they're the top of the credit card game, but the Hilton Aspire card is one of the best credit cards in general. I mean, it's like crazy how much value you can get from it. And I was talking to Luke's Points and Miles just through comments and stuff yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, if the Hilton Aspire had like a massive sign-up bonus on it right now, I think my roadmap might go out the window and I just go for the Hilton Aspire because it's pretty powerful. But.
It's crazy. I mean, the benefits, like I think I made a video about it, in the past where I kind of value the benefits of pretty much like if you're able to maximize kind of the key benefits that a lot of people are able to, like typically you can get like 3 times the value of the annual fee, which you can't really say about every credit card out there. So.
No. Yeah. That's awesome. I assume everybody's been talking about it forever, that at some point they might start to nerf this card. But I think we've been saying that since we both started on YouTube that it should be getting nerfed, and it hasn't yet. So like, might as well get the value you can. Yeah, exactly. I guess what are you, as for the other hotel brands, we know Marriott and Hilton are your top 2, but what do you think about like the Hyatt brand in general?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like I don't have a strong opinion on it per se. I would say that I'm definitely open to the opportunity to add some different like hotel keeper cards to my setup. So I think having like a hotel card free agent type of strategy, which is what I'm currently employing, is pretty powerful just because you have the flexibility, and then you also like, for instance, like IHG is even like a program that people don't really talk about that often, but if you're a lot of times with the free night certificates that a lot of hotel cards offer these days, like if you're able to utilize those every year, like as long as you travel somewhat frequently, like you're typically able to get more value. And I'm definitely open to adding like the Chase World of Hyatt card, maybe the IHG Premier as well. And overall just kind of diversifying my options.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful strategy for the entire credit card game, really, even when you break it down to like cashback versus travel and all of that side of things too. And I guess speaking of that, I think it's pretty obvious that we can say that you are somebody on Team Travel, at least on the hotel side of things. But can you explain why you chose, or why you're currently more on Team Travel than Cashback?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely don't have anything against or nothing wrong with being Team Cashback for sure. But I'm someone that just, first of all, loves traveling. And I love personal finance too. And that's kind of why I got interested in credit cards in the first place. Like the intersection between, being interested in personal finance, but then also having, credit cards that can help you to actually use your personal finance things that you're learning for travel. I just like the additional upside too. Like you kind of have a cap or a floor, I guess, when you're on Team Cashback, obviously. But with Team Travel, like you never know really what sort of value you're going to be getting. Like there's definitely an opportunity to where, if you're doing like an international first class flight, for example, like you could get, 10 cents per point or higher in value, which is just something that you just never be able to experience with Team Cashback. And I just like the opportunity, the fact that I want to travel a lot. And if it weren't for credit card points, I wouldn't be able to travel as often as I hope to and have been able to recently. So that's a huge reason for Team Travel.
That's really the biggest reason why I'm on it as well. It's cool to have that ability to get the massive upsides. As I've talked about on my channel a lot, more on that domestic budget side of things. Yeah. Your point valuation is not massively higher than cashback. Like in a lot of cases, it sometimes makes sense to cash out your points. Again, if you're doing this domestic budget kind of travel, I still wouldn't cash it out, but some people do, and it makes sense. Like this road trip I just went on, I made a video about it, and like my average across all the hotels I stayed at was like 1.5 cents per point, a little bit higher than that. And it's like, I think that is the experience of a lot of people. But then there's also that entire, like even more subset niche of the travel credit card game that is only redeeming for like 2, 5, 10 cents per point. And that's a cool ability to like have. And I'm excited to do more of that. And I'm not sure, have you had any experiences with like massive redemptions like that?
Yeah, not as much. When I go to Panama and Colombia, I'll be flying United business class, which isn't going to be like a crazy redemption, with the U.S. airline and things like that. But, I definitely do have plans in the future to want to try out like Singapore Airlines or, some of those like ultra luxurious, like first class experiences. And definitely definitely am someone that's a little bit more of a points hoarder. I do have a lot of points, and sometimes, it's easy to just burn them as quick as possible. And I definitely want to do more of actually going through them. But it's also nice to like think about saving those up for a specific reason to experience one of those like crazy redemptions. So haven't done a ton of experience with it so far, but I would love to do more of it in the future. So.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Again, going back to the fact that we're at like the same stage or same age range of the credit card game. And I'm like the exact same way where I haven't redeemed for like these insane values yet, international trips, all this stuff. But I've been trying to like build myself to that point of being able to do that by hoarding points, by, you know, still using my points to help me travel for free within the US. But for those bigger trips, I want to have that stockpile. And I'm excited for those experiences. But I think me and you both are like, we love the travel side of the credit card game. But it's funny that we haven't taken like any huge trips yet. Like you see like Luke's Points and Miles doing, for example. Yeah. Which I think there's obviously room for both. I know my channel as well as yours. I think the entire point of it is to like document our journey through the credit card game. So to see how we're very similar in a lot of ways, I think just goes to show that it is a long-term game and we will make some massive redemptions someday, but it is like something that you can't just rush.
Absolutely.
If I wanted to really burn my points, I would just cash them out, but I would not recommend doing that. I don't think you would either. Yeah. But yeah, so as for the travel side, we have the hotels covered with the Hilton cards, Marriott cards now. For your flights, how do you redeem points to book those trips?
Yeah, I would say, for instance, like one thing that I did with the travel redemption I have coming up for Panama and Colombia is I took advantage of a transfer bonus. So I transferred points from Chase over to Aeroplan. I believe the transfer bonus was like 25%. And typically, you know, a lot of times, like when you utilize some of the networks, like obviously there's a lot of different, it can get overwhelming, like many different airlines and like ways to actually find award redemptions and things like that. But going with a couple of like ones that you're familiar with, so like Aeroplan is a great program that you can utilize with a lot of different partners that they have and actually be able to make redemptions that way. One thing that I think is pretty underrated that a lot of people don't really talk about as much, like it's not just like a super hot topic, is transfer bonuses. Like it's obviously redeeming your points for travel is usually going to be one of the best ways to maximize your value with like travel partners and things like that. But it's just a cherry on top if you can actually utilize a transfer bonus on top of it. So my goal with flights is always to utilize a travel partner when I can. Obviously haven't done like that crazy international redemption yet, but for right now, still trying to utilize transfer bonuses and figure out just the right redemptions with transfer partners.
Yeah, that is the name of the game, really, is the transfer partner side of things. I know that there's definitely room. Like, for example, if you had a card like the Chase Sapphire Reserve or like the US Bank Altitude Reserve, those 50% boosts they give on your points can be worth it through the portal. Right. Depending on what you're flying, though. Like, that's why I try to talk on my channel. Like, I transfer out to Southwest, which is not a great redemption rate. I mean, it's like usually like 1.4, 1.5. Not great. But I think, again, that is the experience of a lot of credit card users in the U.S. So I like to hear how people, you know, closer to my age who are making the same trips as me use their points, you know, in the most optimal ways, but still not getting that like unheard of value that might not be realistic for a lot of folks.
Yeah, I know you talked about like on your channel with like the Sapphire Reserve being underrated and like especially like when you're doing like, you know, US type redemptions, like how that can be valuable. Like do you see yourself, just out of curiosity, getting the Sapphire Reserve at some point?
Yeah, I think it depends on, I guess, maybe where I'm living a little bit because like I have the Venture X right now and that card's great, especially for like the lounge access and stuff like that. But at the same time, I don't have like a Capital One lounge near me. I mean, I have one in Dallas. I'm in Austin, so like I could go to use that one. But I think those luxury cards, it's good to maybe target those based on your airport.
Agree. Yeah.
And one thing about the Sapphire Reserve, on top of it giving me at least a 50% guaranteed boost on my points whenever I need to use that, I can also go to like, they have the Chase like the Sapphire Terrace Lounge there that you can only get in using the Reserve. So if I'm in Austin and I want to start using that makes a lot of sense because we don't really have that many other lounges. Yeah. So like the Amex Platinum really wouldn't do much for me, like in Austin. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, I still might want to get that for the channel and experience it, and I might move and want to use it, maybe even just for international trips. But like, I could see the Reserve being a staple in my setup personally, also because I value Chase points so highly, and they're like my favorite lender. But
yeah, that makes sense.
That's not the case for everybody.
Definitely agree with you too on like the location dependency. Yeah. Like, for instance, we have a Centurion Lounge in Seattle, so you know, right now I don't have the Platinum, so I see everyone go in there and enjoy it, and like it makes me want to get it because like based on the fact that I like travel out of Seattle pretty much every time I travel, like that can really add up if I'm getting, you know, unlimited food and drinks every single time I go to the airport. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on the location.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, we have to take into account all the other credits that come on the card, but in general, I think you're getting a luxury travel card to have those luxury experiences, which include airport lounges.
Yeah,
for the most part.
For sure.
So yeah, that exclusivity to Chase might make sense for me, and I might just honestly end up getting all of them. You know, at some point, I think it's kind of being credit card content creators. It's like it's going to get hands-on experience with every card we can. That makes sense. So we'll see where I end up. But I guess what luxury travel card do you see being your staple?
Yeah, definitely. You know, agree with you in that there's a lot of cards down the road that I definitely want to add, and obviously we're still relatively young in our credit card journeys and things like that. But like I was talking about earlier, I think definitely they're adding the Aspire Bonvoy Brilliant for hotels is going to be on my list. I'm going back and forth with the Venture X. I haven't had the best experience with the Capital One, and I don't love them as a lender, but definitely think that I'll add the Platinum at some point. Obviously, it would make sense with the lounge access, and then obviously all the other luxury travel benefits and things like that. So
yeah. That's interesting because it's like you're almost fully on the Amex side of the luxury stuff. And then for me, it's like right now my path is to product change my Marriott Bonvoy Boundless to the Ritz-Carlton.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a Chase card. And then if my luxury card was the Chase Sapphire Reserve, we're kind of on two opposing sides there. Yeah. But I guess that brings up a good question that I wanted to ask you later, but we can talk about it now too. I know that there is a big debate out there of which lender is best. It sounds like Capital One's not the top of your list, not the top of mine either.
Yeah.
But if you had to choose, I guess like one lender, who would you be most loyal to?
Yeah, that's a good question and definitely is interesting. I would say, which is kind of completely different from what I just talked about. I'd say I would go with Chase.
Okay.
Even though I know I just mentioned that I want to pick up these American Express cards and things like that. But a couple of reasons for that. I would say Chase has the most flexibility because first of all, just point value-wise, like it can work for people who are both Team Cashback and Team Travel because obviously you're going to have the higher floor with your Chase points. But just in general, too, like having two solid Chase Freedom cards, having like the ability to downgrade the Reserve or the Preferred if you want to, like, whereas it's just with American Express, you're more locked into some of those like higher annual fee cards, and like then American Express goes and rapidly makes changes, like increases annual fees on cards, like made those changes recently with the sign-up bonus restrictions. And I feel like there's just like so many different things that American Express has done, that pop-up jail being one, like that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way recently. Obviously, I'm still going to continue to get American Express cards, but if I had to say which one was best, I think I would go with Chase.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that is going to be the same mindset that a lot of people start to have. Maybe not directly to Chase, but I think that Amex is lowering their reputation a bit during these times. And there's a lot of people that comment like, oh, well, this is just Amex thinning the herd or whatever. Like they're just getting rid of the people that shouldn't have their cards. And I think those people might just be a little bit egotistical, a little bit thinking that they're better than others. But I think that at the same time, it does show me at least that no bank is truly your friend. And that's something I've said in multiple videos now. But I think that Amex is one of those lenders that people truly believe like, they're my friend. They're always going to do best for me. Their customer service is great.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is true. Like they are a great lender, but they still are here to make money. So if you're not making them money, they're going to cut you. And that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of the case with any lender.
Yeah.
What was your bad experience with Capital One? I don't know if I've...
Yeah, well, it was actually partly with my wife. But basically, she has the Capital One Saver One. And I don't know, customer service wise, just in general, like Capital One is not known to be the best, like in comparison to American Express, especially, or Chase. But we basically, she applied for the Saver One. I don't know if like we're missing something here, but she applied for the Saver One with the sign-up bonus offer. We hit the spend requirement, like we completely verified it many times. And obviously should be getting it, never got the points, and it's been, plenty of months past. We, worked to call Capital One and figure out what the solution is, and they basically said there's no sign-up bonus that exists on the Capital One Saver One, which doesn't make any sense considering that I told her it's on the website, So, yeah, it's just something that definitely.
Yeah, I guess the first thing people would assume is that maybe you applied for the one for good credit versus the excellent, because that one doesn't have a bonus, but it sounds like you knew that there was a bonus.
We definitely checked the terms and everything before we went in and applied. I don't know if that's what they were thinking when we called customer service, but I'm definitely still going to investigate that and see if I can figure out a solution. But
see, that's crazy. So I talked about this in a recent video. I'm not even sure when this video exactly is going to come out, so it might have been a couple months ago. But of that same road trip redemption I mentioned earlier, and my experience with Capital One Travel was like really good, which is, I think, very different from most people's experience. Yeah. And I think that it might be because I was talking about through my Venture X, and I think that they might actually have better customer service for the Venture X, as some people have mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's really true, but my experience was that I booked a completely non-refundable trip at a hotel and then ended up not being able to go. So kind of rookie mistake. I was trying to save money and then ended up almost costing myself a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was like a total of like 45,000 Capital One miles and my $300 travel credit on my Venture X that I used. Couldn't even cancel it through Capital One because it's non-refundable. They don't even let you cancel it.
Yeah.
Called the hotel, canceled it with them, and then I just figured I might as well call them and see what happens. Call Capital One, that is. Called their travel team, and the guy on the phone, basically, long story short, got connected with the hotel directly because they were like kind of partners with them, and ended up refunding all the points and the travel credit back to my card.
Oh, wow.
And I literally saved myself like $750 by just calling.
Wow.
Which that does not seem to be the experience for most
definitely not my experience.
But I think their actual customer service, not the travel side, is not arguably, but like definitively worse.
Yeah.
So that does suck. But yeah, I think people will resonate with that. So I wanted to ask a little bit more about it. So speaking of the cards that you have had, or you and your spouse have had together, the Capital One issues aside, what cards are you currently using now in your wallet? We could do a little what's in my wallet for the people back home.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, both me and you can probably attest to this, but I'm still pretty much at the point in my credit card journey where I'm just cycling from sign-up bonus to sign-up bonus. So usually like the whole like what's in my wallet is maybe used for like a 2-week window before I go on to the next one. So it's not like that big of a factor. Like, for instance, I just completed the sign-up bonus on the Bonvoy business card. And then I'm trying to wait until I get out of Chase jail. I'm really hoping the Chase Inc. offers are still around in early November. So I guess whenever this video is uploaded, maybe at that point I would have gotten the Chase Inc. card. But right now, I guess I do have a couple weeks before I move on to that next sign-up bonus. So I guess the most used credit card in my wallet is the American Express Gold Card, just because dining and grocery stores are two really common spending categories. For gas stations, we use my wife's City Custom Cash just to set that as our dedicated gas station card, get 5x back, and then like I'll use my Freedom Unlimited as my catch-all card. And honestly, those three are the main cards I use. I guess the Built card too we use for rent. And for Built Rent Day, we use it for a date night and get 6x on dining. So those are the main cards I use. Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess for your Chase points, you have I assume the Sapphire Preferred to transfer out to partners? Or?
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So all the points I earn on the Freedom Flex, depending on what the rotating category is, and the Freedom Unlimited, I'll just transfer all of them up to the Sapphire Preferred, transfer out that way. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like we basically have the exact same setup, which again goes back to the sense that we're kind of in the same boat here. But I also use the Amex Gold for all the food, dining, and groceries. The City Custom Cash is my gas card that I just leave in my car, so don't rob my car, please. and then I use the Sapphire Preferred to transfer out. But my main other spender is the Venture X right now. I alternate between the Venture X and the Freedom Unlimited for the catch-all.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's just whatever I need more points of. And honestly, I should probably always use the Freedom Unlimited because I always need more Chase points and not Capital One miles. But I just like using the Venture X more. Yeah. It's a more fun card. Chase needs to update their designs a little bit. But that's funny. We use the exact same stuff. And then I guess those are your daily drivers. And then on the hotel side, what are all your hotel cards you have?
Yeah, so I have the Surpass, the Honors, the Hilton Business, then the Marriott Business. Like the Hilton Honors, for instance, is a soft drawer card. The Surpass, I'm most likely gonna downgrade back to the no annual fee version once my annual fee posts. Then I'll use the Hilton Business as my Hilton Gold status type card. I'll use the Bonvoy Business to get a free night award each year. So basically use it as a keeper card. Then like we kind of talked about earlier, definitely would love to add some more keeper cards like the Hyatt card or the IHG Premier, then potentially a luxury hotel card in the future too.
Yeah, so you're gonna nail all the hotel cards. That's similar to what I want to do too. I feel like most, especially like those $95 annual fee, that tier of hotel cards are just so easy to get value from.
Oh yeah,
just with one free night, it's like I know that sometimes like Luke, for example, he doesn't like the World of Hyatt personal card because it's the free night's not that great.
Yeah.
And I understand that completely, especially whenever he has like 30 cards and a lot of people in the same kind of demographic have that same experience. But for somebody like us, I would still get value from that one free night a year. It gives me an excuse to go travel. I mean, I'm staying at Hyatt's all the time. So, and category 4 is like not great, but I'd stay at them. I don't care to travel on a budget. So I want to do the same thing though, and kind of add as many of the hotel cards as I can, especially if they have a downgrade option, and especially if they're business cards, because I don't worry about canceling annual fee business cards because they don't report, to your personal credit. So, and they also don't add to your 524 account. So it's just like an easy way to just keep getting those sign-up bonuses, like you mentioned. And that's very much my experience too. And then do you have a airline card?
Yeah, I have the Alaska card. It was my first ever credit card that I opened. At the time, like this was back, I think like my junior year of college, where I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest. Like I kind of just saw that in the Seattle area, like the Alaska card is what everyone was getting. Like people would talk about like redeeming the miles and things like that. Luckily, I did get it at a pretty opportune time because they nerfed the card. Basically, they made it so you have to spend, I think, $6,000 per year to get the companion pass. Which, if that was the case, that would suck. Like I wouldn't use the card probably. But now I get a companion pass every year because I'm grandfathered in without the spend.
That's every year?
Every year. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Which is pretty valuable because typically like we'll use it for like a positioning flight, for instance, or just like, if you want to travel to the East Coast or something like that. Like the flight cost is obviously going to be much more than, what the companion pass is. And then the annual fee is going to be a lot less than the value I'm getting. So it makes sense.
Yeah. See, that's like, so I'm on the Southwest side of things because I'm in Texas and Austin. And there's a lot of Southwest flights out of here. Yeah. So I'm the same way, like want to get the companion pass one day, but the way for me to get that is like, I guess just more complicated with the Southwest cards. You have to earn like 135,000 points, Southwest points in a year, which means you usually apply for 2 Southwest cards in the same year, wait until the next year to hit both of the bonuses, and then you can like have companion pass for that year and the year after. But then you have to keep doing that same cycle. So for you, it's really nice to be grandfathered into always having it.
Yeah,
that's huge.
For sure.
That's awesome. So you really have, how many credit cards do you have?
I have 10, and my 2-player setup with my wife Lucia, we have 19 total. But yeah, I have 10, and I think 3 of them are business, 7 are personal.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. So I have 10 as well, but definitely less hotel cards. So I guess, I have a couple more business ones, I think, than you.
Yeah.
Because I have like do you have the Blue Business Plus?
I do not.
Okay.
No.
I have that one and then the Amazon Prime Business.
Yeah.
So that's where we differ a little bit. But I'm getting into the hotel cards, so I'll be catching up at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure.
How did you get your wife to buy into the credit card game, or was that something she was already interested in?
Yeah, that's a good question. Funny enough, this was actually before like I really knew what I was doing with credit cards, but she saw like on TikTok when the Sapphire Preferred was offering a 100,000 point sign-up bonus offer.
Yeah.
And she had gotten like the Discover It cashback card before. So she got approved for it, and she did that. Like she got those 2 cards before I even really 100 or like really got more into it and knew what I was doing. So she was already a little bit interested in it to begin with, and like saw the value in, getting free travel. But then I've definitely, helped her like kind of learn about some other strategies and things we can do to really maximize our 2-player setup. So as an example, this year, since I've been trying to protect my 524 status so I can get the Chase In cards, I had her get the City Custom Cash and the Built card because they were both going to be useful in our everyday setup. But I didn't want to get them because then I would be locking myself further into Chase jail. But yeah, she's been awesome with, wanting to learn about credit cards and kind of take some of my advice with what cards she should get. And obviously because of that, her helping with 9 additional cards and the sign-up bonuses and things like that have definitely helped us to accumulate a lot more points.
Yeah, that Player 2 game is awesome. I'm looking forward to that because like you said, like if I could apply for any cards and not necessarily worry about my 524 status, I would also have the Built card. I would also have more hotel cards. Right. I would start getting all these other cards, and then I would try to do the Southwest Companion Pass. So it's like that Player 2 side just makes everything like double as much fun, I feel like.
For sure.
So
yeah.
That's exciting. But 9 credit cards is a lot for just like a casual credit card user to have. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And I've tried to like, instill in her like, prioritizing no annual fee cards first and like, finding cards that are going to make sense that she'll get value out of every year. And definitely I think her 9 credit card setup is all cards that are useful to us, useful to her, and just make a lot of sense for our 2-player setup.
Gotcha. So being on that team travel side of things as well, obviously I think a big part of that you mentioned earlier too is that it helps you to make more experiences. It forces you to travel a little bit more. So I guess what would have been some of y'all's favorite experiences, or where do y'all like to go with your credit card points specifically?
Yeah, so I definitely want to travel more to Spanish-speaking countries, for instance. So I'm learning Spanish. I am somewhat like conversational. I'm not fluent yet or anything like that, but my wife is Mexican and her parents speak Spanish and things like that. So I definitely want to get, more experience with actually being able to, speak Spanish.
Yeah.
Would love to become fluent in it. That would be a great goal of mine. So obviously we've traveled across different places in Mexico, and then also are going to Central and South America this winter, I guess. So then would love to continue hitting some of those places, and maybe Spain will be one we'll go to. And obviously would love to, I just love travel overall. Like traveling is usually like some of the best, those weeks that I travel to like new places and being enmeshed in like a new culture and new environment are some of like the best weeks that I've had in my life. So like I would love to like travel to, pretty much every continent and just like be in a completely unfamiliar culture to myself and really learn about, another perspective for life and like just experience a lot of those things. So
that's awesome. Would that be something that you would want to document on this channel you have currently, or are you thinking about like doing a completely separate like travel kind of?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think definitely the redemption side of things. Right. So like, talking about how to, redeem certain points and like the specific trips that I've taken and what I did to redeem my points for, definitely on this channel. But, I have thought about it in the past about, maybe having like a travel specific channel. Maybe that'll be more of like a less serious channel in a way. Like I put less into the overall like editing, kind of do it for fun and just see what happens. Whereas this, I obviously like really care about my audience and really care about like putting out good content and things like that. But maybe it's even like a TikTok thing or something too.
Yeah,
I do. So
that's fair. I've always thought of like also documenting my travel stuff as like almost like, whenever you were a kid, you kind of had like home videos and stuff maybe. I don't know if you had these, but like it's just cool to think that you could look back on those experiences with your wife, like while y'all just got married. It's just like one thing to, obviously you don't have to put it on YouTube, but if you're passionate about this as a platform, it's like, well, if you're happy to share it in public, it's kind of cool to be able to look back on that 10 years later. So
we do have like a travel book where we like put like we have like a different layout with different pages where we put like pictures of different trips we've taken and like places we've gone and stuff like that. So I do that. I guess just not sure if I want to like document the entire thing for everyone.
Because then it just turns into like work. Maybe the vacations are a little less fun. But I do notice that in your videos you include B-roll from all of your actual trips, which I think is really cool. Yeah. Can you explain maybe a little bit more about your thought process behind that, like as a content creator in general?
Yeah, I think like I just love doing it, I guess, for one. Like I think it's cool to, get a glimpse, I guess, into another person, like a creator that you watch, like their travels or their lives and like things like that. And for instance, like Nate O'Brien is a creator that I've watched for a long time. And like I noticed he would have like a lot of B-roll type stuff in his videos. And I really like seeing that. And I thought it was cool. So I think it gives like a little bit more of like a personal touch with my audience and being able to like give them an inside look, I guess, on like what I was doing while I was traveling. And then I think it's cool to like, because, obviously like we can get B-roll everywhere of just like random people doing random things, but I think it's cool to like sometimes like put some of my own B-roll into it too. Yeah. No,
I like that a lot about your channel for sure. I think you've also almost, I can kind of tell that you've carved a little bit of a niche for yourself on the travel side of going to like the South America, or Central America, or whatever, North America and Mexico and stuff like that. Because a lot of people don't necessarily talk about those types of redemptions. So I guess what prompts you to, I guess you're obviously naturally inclined to want to visit those places, but what about those places do you think more people should go experience?
Yeah, I think like I think there's great food for one, if you're a foodie and stuff like that. And then I think the culture down there is awesome. And like, I obviously still want to do a lot more traveling in that region and still haven't experienced like a ton of things and I want to. But I think I'm definitely someone that isn't like, I have to like, only travel to this specific region or this specific like European country or like, I'd love to travel like everywhere. So I think, I guess going to a little bit more like under the radar places is cool to find some like hidden gems. And like you said too, like not as many people like really do redemptions there. So for other people who are interested in going to some of those places. Like hopefully I can provide a little bit of value on my channel and talking about how to make that happen and some of the redemptions you can do. But yeah, I just love that region overall, and definitely love other regions too, and want to travel everywhere pretty much.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I really feel like I have not seen many videos on redemptions to anywhere but like the Maldives and stuff is a classic example. But because you can get some crazy redemption value, I guess in your experience, is the redemption value like comparable in those regions, or how does that kind of pan out?
It depends. I would say like there definitely isn't like a super luxurious airline that goes as much to those places versus like Asia is like kind of a hot spot for like doing a lot of those like first class travel redemptions and flights and things like that. I would say probably there isn't like an opportunity for like incredibly outsized value like from some of those like first class international flights. I do know that like still doing some of those redemptions like are going to be like there's still great opportunities, and like sometimes the redemption value is not going to be as high, but I know you agree with this too. Like you want to like the ultimate goal is to do something that's going to like improve your life or help you travel to a certain place, but if it's going to be a little bit lower redemption value, like that still helps out like the fact that you're able to travel to that destination. So like I'm still all for it. Obviously like the airlines aren't like absolutely top notch like they are to maybe some other regions of the world, but there's still lots of great like Marriott, Hilton hotel opportunities for example.
I was going to say too, we were talking about this earlier today, but it seems like maybe you make up for the value that you lose in the airline redemption rates a little bit with the experience that you have at the hotels you book in those places, because your money I feel like goes a lot further in those areas compared to somewhere like Italy or wherever. So I think that is another cool thing about it, is like once you do get there, I feel like you can have a lot more fun and like stay in a really nice place for cheaper. Do you have any experiences with like hotels that you really enjoyed?
Yeah, for sure. Like for my honeymoon, we went to the Waldorf Astoria in Cancun, which is a super nice hotel and obviously a more touristy area, but it was definitely the nicest hotel I've ever stayed at. And then like, for instance, like I utilized the Bonvoy Business with the 3 free nights from the sign-up bonus. And I use those to book I'm going to book the JW Marriott in Bogota, Colombia, which is a really nice property. And, you know, that's going to be under the 50K points that I have for that free night certificate. Whereas I can only imagine like comparably probably to like Italy, for instance, like it's probably going to be higher if you're going to have to spend more points to be able to book that. So definitely more opportunities for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't stayed at a ton of like super nice hotels yet, again, because I haven't been in the game that long, but I got to stay at the Waldorf Astoria for the creator meetup we had in Vegas. That place was pretty sweet. I've never seen a hotel room like that. But
I went up to the Sky Bar that one time with some other people, and that was like incredible, like seeing the panoramic like 360 views of everything. So
that's funny. Well, I did want to pose a question to you that you can answer just to cause some kind of debate in the comments maybe, but I already asked you about the Chase versus Amex thing, but I want to drill down a little bit more on that and say only give you a couple of options within those. So you're not going to get full access to the ecosystem, but you have to kind of choose. So let's say that because I know you really like the Amex Gold card. The Platinum card's going to give you a lot of value if you get it. So say that duo right there, the Amex Gold and Platinum versus like the, I guess the Freedom Unlimited is a fine one to go with here. And no, I guess we'll do the Sapphire Preferred annual fees. So Sapphire Preferred, we can't have the Reserve in that, so never mind. I was going to do the 2 luxury hotel card, or the 2 luxury cards, so the Platinum versus the Reserve, and then the Gold versus like the Unlimited. So if you could pick a duo from each, which one would you go with?
Yeah, I could definitely see arguments for both. I think if I was limited to where I could only pick one of those duos, I think just like, because I want to accelerate my travel, I want to be able to travel a lot more in the future. And when that does happen, I'm able to travel more. I think like a card like the Platinum is going to be pretty essential to maximizing that travel. Like I can only imagine if I'm able to travel, let's say like, 10 to 15 times a year, let's say I fly out of Seattle, like that's going to be 10 to 15 times I visit the Centurion Lounge and get food and drinks, which could really add up to a lot of value there. Then like, obviously I think I'll be able to maximize some of the different credits on the card and some of the different benefits that come from status and things like that too. And then obviously the Gold card I love because it's my daily driver and it really maximizes my spending categories. I obviously love the Sapphire Preferred and Unlimited too, but I could probably do without them more than I can do without the Platinum and Gold, at least for like my end game strategy.
Yeah, so that's kind of the key I was trying to maybe hone in on after my long-winded question. But basically, I would agree in that sense that like the in-game strategy seems to be Amex being like the king. And of course, I didn't mention this, but that example, you may not be able to only choose those two because you need to be able to use a card abroad, and Amex isn't always accepted.
Yeah.
But I think that Amex's cards in general are the in-game strategy and give me the most upside value. But the Chase cards are like super, super powerful for that beginner to intermediate kind of stage. And even arguably, this Chase Sapphire Reserve can be a late game card. But that's something that I don't think we maybe talk about enough or maybe is understood enough on credit card YouTube, is the sense that I know people hate Chase, but that's probably because you had Chase cards 10 years ago and now you're way later into the credit card game and you like Amex more. I think Chase cards are extremely valuable.
Yeah.
So I guess, has that been your experience too?
Yeah, I definitely think that Chase is the best when you're first starting out because, it just gives you the flexibility, gives you the opportunity to like build your credit history from some valuable no annual fee cards and things like that. And I think the Sapphire Preferred is a really good starting point for someone's like first core travel card to be able to start to utilize transfer partners and things like that. But I do agree that, once you get to a certain point and you're traveling frequently and you want to maximize the value, of course, if like for whatever reason I wasn't able to travel as much, or maybe just had a couple of years where I knew I wasn't going to travel, then I could see more of an argument for Chase. But if you're someone who travels a lot, then I think that Amex duo right there that you talked about can't really be beat. Honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. Do you see yourself ever switching to like more team cashback, or no?
I think probably not. I think definitely things would have to shift with like, I don't know, like if maybe I knew there was going to be a couple of years for whatever reason that I wasn't going to be able to travel, then I could see why, like, getting cash back, and like I could see it at a time in my life where if I like wanted to really focus on investing and like taking the cash back from credit cards and putting that right into the stock market or something, like I can see why that can be valuable. But just because I love travel and I know that like credit card points make experiences happen that I otherwise would not have been able to experience, I think I'll always be someone that leans a little bit more towards team travel.
Yeah, that's how I think about it too. I can see the appeal of the simplicity of cashback for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe if I was like a lot older and I, like you said, wasn't traveling, I could get more cashback credit cards. Because it is pretty hard to beat. Like a 5% cashback card is pretty good. Like for my Amazon purchases, that's why I use the Business Prime card, because I could maybe get 2x or whatever in Capital One miles, but 5% cashback is pretty nice. And I kind of like to segment off a little bit in my brain, like the different kind of, I guess like saving buckets I have. So the reason I say that is because I think that credit cards for me are contributing to that travel fund or that travel savings, where I know that if I have enough points, I can travel for free. And that is like a good comfort thing for me. Like even if I'm not, if for whatever reason my income gets cut short, obviously probably wouldn't recommend traveling when that's the case, because it still costs a lot of money to travel. But I know that I have that like travel fund set aside and I can focus on my bank account separately. I wonder if you think about your credit card points like that too, or if it's maybe different in your mind.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good way to look at it. I definitely think of credit card points almost, I definitely agree. I think like, straight income. So like cash I'm getting, obviously I'm using to pay my bills and like do things that are necessary. But I definitely look at credit card points as something, since I haven't even really considered at this point, like taking those points for cash back.
Right.
I pretty much consider like, here's what I'm going to use for travel. Like my goal is to never really, like obviously, we need to pay cash for like food and experiences, and like the whole like free travel is not actually free travel, but for like your highest travel expenses, plane rides, hotels, I look at it like my credit card points. If I want to travel, I have to make sure that, I have the credit card points ready to go that I'm going to maximize that travel with. And if I don't have the points, I'm not going to travel. So it just comes down to, points are what I use to travel pretty much.
Yeah, that's exactly how I think about it too. Yeah, I think there's people like Sledge, for example, from Sledging Team on YouTube, that I think tries to subsidize all of his travel because he has a hybrid setup. So like his cashback cards are for cashing out to pay for like the food and the experiences while he's there, which is an interesting approach to it. I guess if you have high enough spend, that is doable. But I know for the majority of people that also don't have YouTube channels that can get referrals and stuff like that, your spend does matter a lot on these cards. And in that case, you want to kind of save them up for those trips.
Right.
That's another reason why I don't think it's necessarily smart to cash out your credit card points if you are on team travel, because like you were saying earlier, if you're saving up for those big experiences, like your honeymoon, for example, first of all, you might not even know when that's exactly coming up. So if it's 2 years down the road and then you get there and you have to pay $10,000 for these plane tickets and this hotel, that's a lot of money. But if you have 100, 200,000 points and you can subsidize that, like that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's something that I want to do better at too, is like make sure that I plan out my like next year to come and make sure I have enough points, because that is really important. But now I would like to switch a little bit into your YouTube journey in general. I think that's another big thing that I love talking about here. It is a more business focused, I guess, podcast, you can call it. So I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about like how and why you got started on YouTube and how that beginning of that journey was for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So not that many people know this, but I had a different channel before this one. And I basically talked about personal finance, investing, stocks, things like that. And I got it monetized and everything like that. And I think I started it like later in 2020, like kind of during COVID in a way. I realized kind of, I guess like halfway into my overall YouTube journey at this point that like I like that, but I didn't love it. And like I feel like it's very easy to be susceptible to YouTube burnout based on like how much work goes into all these videos, that I needed to like love the content I was doing. So I started to experiment with credit card content on my old channel, but just because for so long I had been like talking about stocks and personal finance, like it didn't go over as well because it's like not what my audience was expecting.
Right.
So I figured like I need to just start a new channel if I wanted this to be the direction. And I thought about it, and like I knew that credit cards was what I ended up loving, because it was definitely the intersection between loving personal finance and entrepreneurship and loving travel, and then like comes together in credit cards. So, then I started the credit card channel and basically been doing that and been loving it ever since.
Gotcha. So it's funny because almost every single one of the conversations that I have, especially with guys like in our little like smaller group, I guess, all started with personal finance content, and then saw I guess for you didn't necessarily see this right away, but saw that the credit card content performed better, and they switched to credit cards. But you had the same kind of experience, except you created a whole new channel for it. So that's a little bit different. And then obviously, I guess from my perspective, my initial goal was to make it a general personal finance channel, but I kind of stuck with credit cards early on. Just all the YouTube help stuff was like just niche down, so I did. And luckily it's obviously worked pretty well. But I love hearing how everybody has that same experience. It's probably because we're all like inspired by people like Graham Stephan, who have been able to make the general personal finance work. But yeah, so what can you give us like the timeline on that? When, like, how long? You said 2020 was your older channel start, and then when did you switch? Do you remember?
I think I switched. I think it was a little bit after you and Stan, kind of around the same time though, when I like started the whole credit card content.
And that was like, I think I started in March of 2022.
Yeah, and I think I was around that too.
So you were like, you had the personal finance channel then for at least like a year.
Yeah, I did the personal finance for a year and a half, 2 years, honestly. Like, and then obviously is when I made the switch to credit cards, when I obviously saw that too, that credit card content did perform better, and that was part of it too, obviously, but also just I liked that way more, and I felt like I was gonna not be burnt out because I actually loved the content I was making, versus I liked investing and I liked personal finance, but it wasn't like extremely what I wanted to like do all of the time, 24/7, you know?
Right.
So
I think you kind of start off with like the imitation a little bit of what you've seen be successful, which is what I was trying to do too. Especially like, and at that time, like Daniel was doing really well in credit card stuff, and I think a lot of us imitate Daniel in some way because he's been such a success in our niche. But the same way with Graham Stephan is like, oh, I know he talks about personal finance, so I'm going to do that. That was my thought process. And then you kind of find your own niche after a while, which I think is the great part about it. But I wanted to ask too, like, what has been your favorite part of having this channel? I can give you like a rough guideline of where I'm going with this question, but for me, originally I thought it would be like, finding the success, finding the audience that really resonated with my stuff, getting to talk about what I loved, which is a big part of it, a big part of what I love. But I think for me, like the connections that I've made with other creators has been very, fulfilling. And I don't know if you resonate with that or what your favorite parts kind of have been.
Yeah, I think a couple of different things. You touched on it too. Like when I was doing my personal finance channel, like I didn't talk to anyone else. Like I was kind of just like, for the most part, just doing my own thing. Like didn't really, talk to anyone. Whereas like the credit card community is very, very come together. Like we obviously had the meetup, and like a lot of us are in pretty constant communication. Like I obviously never came to Austin and filmed a podcast with my personal finance channel. So definitely the community with other credit card creators has been huge. And obviously we learn a lot from each other and figure out the best ways to do things as we're all learning together. I think the community too, like it feels really good to put a lot of work into a video, because as we both know, like it takes a lot of work to create videos, and then like have someone comment that, this was really helpful or this provided a lot of value. Like it almost kind of justifies the work that we put in for these videos.
Yeah.
And then also just, I've learned a lot about credit cards myself just by creating content and having to be the expert on certain topics and going along with my credit card journey as I'm making videos and figuring out different strategies. And obviously we've changed our own strategies many times as we've learned different things. And I think it's helped me in my own development with learning about credit cards and be able to maximize my points too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think what you talked about there too, about like having to become an expert basically, is a big thing that I found on as having a channel too, is like, I knew that when I started my channel, I'm like, and you were the same, we're some of the youngest people in this space. We've been in this the shortest amount of time, but how do we like make a name for ourselves and have people like want to come back and watch us for the information, for the content? And my justification was that I am documenting my journey. So I'm learning along the way with you.
Right. Yeah.
And hopefully I'm just a few steps ahead so that I can help you out, and if you're in the stage right behind me. Or obviously, hopefully help you out no matter what stage you're in. But that was kind of my ideology behind it. And I think that is something that's really important from your channel too, is that you're sharing your experiences as you're having them.
Yeah.
And it does push you to like learn. If somebody asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, you have to figure it out. Yeah. So it's like, that's how I've felt with my channel as well. And I think it's a privilege to be able to do what we do. And the credit card niche has been super welcoming of me and you, I think. So
yeah,
that's what I've really appreciated that as well.
Definitely agree. Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess how has the burnout from the previous channel compared to like this channel? Because obviously you like this content more, but have you seen like a big difference in your like mental state between the two channels?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And on my like previous channel, I started to kind of get into like seeing what certain stock videos were doing well, and I would like make those videos just because they were doing well, and like not necessarily because I loved making that content. And now like obviously both you and me have to like take a look at the market and like figure out like what people want to hear, but also we have more of an opportunity to like document our credit card journeys and like say things that are gonna be important topics to us, like talk about how our credit card strategy is changing, why we are applying for this card, and like that's obviously super helpful for us to have a really good rationale ourselves.
Yes,
and it's good to document it with the overall community too.
Yeah.
But so I think obviously all of us feel a little bit of burnout from time to time, inevitably, just because it takes a lot of work to put into these videos. And I'm still working at my full like 9 to 5, so I usually do my YouTube work after I get off. And obviously there's days where if I had a stressful day at work and then I have to go work on YouTube for 5-6 hours, like it can get a little overwhelming. But at least I love the content I'm making, and I get a lot of value out of learning myself. So based on that, I think the burnout's a lot lower.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is really good. One of the big things that I ask every single person that comes on the channel is if you could just tell us a little bit more about your goals for like the next year, for example. Like what kind of stuff do you have coming up or want to have coming up that we haven't seen yet? Or do you have anything there?
Yeah, definitely. I would say one thing is I used to be very like results oriented, in the sense that I would like focus on like my goal being like, a certain amount of subscribers or a certain amount of views per video. And I think that was definitely like, that definitely can cause burnout by like then not seeing it, because like it's obviously a marathon YouTube. So I think definitely focusing on process oriented goals. So one thing that, you guys are all going to see from me hopefully soon is I'm going to try to increase my video frequency, maybe in December, maybe at the start of 2024, maybe even next month, to hopefully 6 videos a month. So going up a little bit, maybe having 2 weeks a month where I upload twice. And that's going to come in conjunction with, having people help me with the editing, so that I can take a little bit of time away from the editing and actually focus on, creating the best content and topics. So hopefully my videos will be a little bit better edited. And then in return, I'll be pumping out more content too. Content specifically, I'd love to make more travel redemption videos as I start to travel more and, show people what's possible with credit card points. But yeah, that's kind of like what I would expect people to see from me.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then as for full-time aspirations, I know we've talked about this off air, but what are your aspirations on that side of things? Do you want to go full-time is basically the question.
Yeah. No, I would love to go full-time. Obviously, some of the reasons I discussed earlier, like I love credit card content, love this community, also love, being more entrepreneurial minded. So I like being able to, run my own business and kind of have the independence to, be in control of my schedule and create content, based on what I want to create, and not necessarily be constrained to having to do things for, another job and things like that. So would love the opportunity to be full-time at some point. Obviously, it'll be when the timing's right, because it'll be just when it makes most sense financially, and obviously when it just makes the most sense for my life. But overall, for now, I think a big help with that is just going to be to outsource the editing a little bit more, to where I'm having people that can edit a lot better than me actually do that, so that I can have more time to actually put back into the content, which will hopefully help to create good content for everyone, and then hopefully help to continue to grow my channel.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm super excited to see it, and I think I speak for everybody here, but really appreciate you, one, coming to Austin, but also just talking with us today. So thank you for being here.
Of course, Spencer. It's great to come out to Austin, Texas, and hope you all enjoyed it and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah.